Hello there. Again. Yep, it's me RealmRanker here. Yet again with another video that I hope people will actually enjoy. We all have seen Dracula movies much like me. I remember when I was 10 years old and I didn't even know who Dracula was. Yep, that depressing. Anyway, so we've all seen Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman, Anthony Hopkins, etc. In this video, that is one of the movies I will be ranking in a ranking video of all the best, funniest, and worst versions of Dracula that I've seen myself so far. Note that not all of them are movies, some are series or characters out of a video game. So rankers, let's get ranking. So we'll start at the funniest versions, most ridiculous versions category. At number 1, Renfield, a movie with wonderful Nicolas Cage. So basically, Renfield is What We Do in the Shadows meets The Office. If Dracula was your narcissistic manager who keeps turning into smoke to avoid HR, what is with this? Is his wallet trapped in a cage? Is he going bankrupt? No, I think he took a trip to Candyland. If you wrote a soap opera and put a germaphobe into a comedy skit with somebody who never brushes their teeth or clips their nails, then yep, you get Renfield. So Renfield, played by Nicholas Hoult, he longs for a normal life since he was the familiar of Dracula for centuries. Renfield then decides he has an abusive relationship with his boss, so he runs away and abandons him. He buys an apartment, falls in love with an Asian woman who's a cop, and everything is good till Dracula finds him and wants his revenge on Renfield. Asian lady finds out who Renfield is and his boss, so she tries to destroy Dracula. They cut him into little cubes and concrete him alive. The end. That is the crack job comedy film summed up. He floats around in a velvet cape, does jazz hands while talking about bloodlust, and somehow makes immortal vampire lord feel like your drunk uncle doing cosplay at a goth karaoke night. Nicolas Cage is not good as a vampire. Remember the first vampire film he did? What a mess. I'm starting to feel sorry for Vlad the Impaler. Basically, you get mafia goons, blood splatter fight scenes, Renfield's wellness journey, and Dracula crashing AA meetings like he's doing stand-up at open mic night. There's kung fu. There's exploding heads. There's self-help mantras. At number 2 we have Da Vinci's Demons. What is that, you ask? It's a series based on Leonardo da Vinci, where he meets Dracula along the storyline. Leonardo travels to a country called Wallachia because he requires help or knowledge, and there he meets a crazy, deluded guy called Vlad who loves parties and likes trapping people inside his dungeon, with bears to keep them company. He even only has 10 people in his army. Vlad claims each of his men have the power of 1,000,000 men. This is one of the most hilarious versions yet. Is it a wig? Is it glued on disappointment? Did he borrow it from a medieval Barbie? It's giving, I woke up like this in the 1400s. You can't claim to be a terrifying warlord when your hair looks like it lost a fight with a horse brush and 3 cans of hairspray. Sure, yeah, dark sarcasm, but still throws parties no one wants to attend, thinks torture chambers are hot tub equivalents, and probably owns a velvet robe that says, "Number 1 Blood Daddy." And he takes none of it seriously. He's walking around saying cryptic stuff, smiling like a dollar store Bond villain, while Leonardo's just trying to figure out the Da Vinci Code 2.0. Number 3, Hotel Transylvania. So yeah, it's a kids movie. I just think it's ridiculous. Nice for kids, but ridiculous nonetheless. What was Adam Sandler thinking? Is he out of money like Nicolas Cage? A guy with sharpened teeth and him saying zing in practically every movie just makes it a childish insult to the whole Dracula thing. Blah blah blah, seriously? And runs a hotel. If a vampire ran a business, wouldn't they run a blood pathology lab? Hotel Transylvania is not scary. It's not edgy. It's Scooby-Doo meets Resort Tycoon with the comedic depth of a whoopee cushion. But it's kind of charming in a please don't make me think kind of way. Kids love it. Adults tolerate it. Dracula sobs into his wine glass and whispers, "I used to be feared." Adam Sandler voices Dracula like he's doing a bad impression of Borat with a head cold. Everything he says is blah blah blah, like he's trying to summon Siri using ancient Transylvanian gibberish. Number 4, Die Hair and Dracula. This movie is like if Nosferatu and a telenovela had a baby and then abandoned it at a haunted castle run by moody men with commitment issues. This movie is old, but not as old as the classic Nosferatu film. Dracula in this movie is basically just a lonely Euro vampire brooding around his cobwebbed castle like a sad wine mom waiting for a Tinder match. He decides, you know what would solve all my problems? Kidnapping a human woman and forcing her to be my vampire baby mama. Because of course, nothing says romance like imprisonment and blood rituals. So he turns her into a vampire. She immediately dies in the sun like a cheap-scented candle, and he's suddenly a single dad raising a half-vampire idiot son. We've officially entered Dracula, the sitcom. In the end, having failed to teach his son to be a proper vampire, his son falls in love with a human woman. That woman is the doppelganger of his mother, and meanwhile, the son is like, "Father, I love this woman." And Dracula's like, "How dare you? That's my dead girlfriend's face on her body." Dracula literally competes with his own kid over the same woman. Shakespeare called, "It wants its family trauma back." Of course it ends in a ridiculous showdown where Dracula dies and the son, who still has the IQ of a potato, goes on to have 3 vampire children, including a daughter who's apparently a bratty vampire gremlin. It is funny but really dumb. Number 5, Castlevania. Imagine getting ghosted, and your response is to summon a hell dimension and torch the earth. That's Dracula. 10/10 for drama. 0/10 for healthy coping mechanisms. This Dracula looks exactly like Graf Arcas from the Sisai 1997 cartoon. You know, flowing jet black hair? Sad, soulful eyes that say, "I write poetry in my coffin." The wardrobe of a romantic villain who's been banned from 5 royal balls for emotional damage. Castlevania's Dracula is a tragic villain done beautifully, but also hilariously extra. He's the gothic boyfriend you had in high school who never smiled, smelled like incense, and quoted Macbeth at school dances. Anyway, I have tons of respect for Castlevania. Been around for a long time, but this guy is funny somehow. The long hair, the creeping, the mustache. I thought it was sad when he lost his wife, though. Basically, the series Castlevania, Dracula falls in love with a human woman, but she is killed by people of the church. As revenge, Dracula rages hell on earth, and it's up to Richter Belmont and Sypha Belnades to stop him. Now we've reached the worst versions category. These ones are just downright mean, or just horrible. Number 1, Penny Dreadful. Much like the name of the series, this version is indeed dreadful. This series' plot line follows characters from stories like Frankenstein. There's also a woman who's an empath, and she had a friend called Mina. It's no wonder that Dracula is added to the show. However, this version of Dracula is a direct reference to the real one, Vlad the Impaler. Anyway, in the series, Dracula heads to London because he has been stalking the empath. Then he kidnaps her, tries to seduce her, and tells her his life story. Basically, he says that he fought against people when he lived in his country. He explains to her that he didn't hate the enemy for what they did, that he enjoyed going to war with them. This is just downright horrible. This version of Dracula suggests that Vlad the Impaler had no conscience. Personal bias, I think it's rude and wrong. Vlad the Impaler witnessed cruelty and suffered underneath it. Somebody like that has a conscience. The fact that this version implies this makes this the worst version I have seen ever. Not to mention, all the actors in this series are a joke. This version of Dracula is tied directly to Vlad the Impaler, which is historically accurate in theory, but the show completely misuses that fact. Instead of showing Vlad's internal conflict or trauma, Penny Dreadful presents him as someone who enjoyed war and suffering, which completely ignores the historical and emotional complexity of Vlad's life. That portrayal basically suggests he's just evil for the fun of it. Number 2, Nosferatu. So there's the cool old black and white film, Nosferatu, the oldest vampire movie ever made, and well, we have the newly released one. What a dump. My first thought was put on a pants. The Nosferatu guy reminded me of a certain actor I had seen before. The sad thing is this film had so much potential but was an utter train wreck. This film starred Nicolas Hoult, and Johnny Depp's daughter and Willem Dafoe. This storyline is set in Germany during the 19th century. Nosferatu is based on Dracula Vlad the Impaler, since Nosferatu lives in Wallachia. Nicholas Hoult plays the role of the boring husband, and Johnny Depp's daughter plays the role of the innocent wife, who is delusional. The husband then gets sent on a business trip to a foreign country, and he meets Nosferatu guy. Nosferatu begins to fancy the other man's wife. Meanwhile, the whole thing is just a setup so Nosferatu can have the wife. He gives the other man love bites by draining his energy and blood, then he hitchhikes to Germany on a ship. The other man escapes the castle by falling out of it. Nosferatu brings the plague to Germany and threatens a stalker project that if she doesn't fall in love with him, he will make everyone she loves sick. Bill Skarsgård is supposed to be terrifying, but instead, he lumbers around in the shadows like a sad rat man who lost his coat. He says almost nothing, contributes even less, and somehow still manages to be the main villain. The vampire design is ridiculous, sure. There's no charisma, no terror. Just a guy with long nails, awkward posture, and no pants. Like a gothic meth gremlin. Honestly, it makes you appreciate Gary Oldman's weird wig even more. Number 3. Destroy All Neighbors. Ever heard of this film? Nope, I think not. This film is a low-budget film I found and decided to watch. Within mere minutes of doing, so I decided that this film is a joke. It's about a guy in America living in a low-rent apartment, wasting his life away with his girlfriend. He dreams of making music, the best album that anyone's ever heard. But when a rather unusual person moves in next door, his life takes a rather abnormal turn. The neighbor's name is Vlad, wears a grandpa cap, he came from the Balkans, Europe, and claims he's outlived his entire family. Every morning he plays rock music on a stereo and does exercises. Vlad's neighbor gets pissed off and decides to take matters into his own hands. That's when Vlad dies, turns into a ghost to keep on ruining his neighbor's life. This Vlad character is supposed to be some eccentric, possibly immortal being from the Balkans. Sure. Let's go with that. But he acts more like your annoying uncle who drinks Monster Energy at 6 a.m. and won't shut up about his vinyl collection. He plays loud rock, exercises in leopard print underwear, and is basically the personification of a migraine. And when he dies, he doesn't stay dead. He comes back, just to keep being annoying. Not terrifying, not funny, just there. I don't know why I wasted my time watching this. I would not recommend this movie to anyone. Number 4, Darkstalkers. So this one is a video game. Darkstalkers is a cool video game series. Think Capcom and Street Fighter but with mythical creatures. Been around for a while. My favorite one is Darkstalkers Chronicles. Anyway, anyone who has played this game will know this character, Dimitri. Yep, he's based on Dracula. Biased. Yes, I don't like Dimitri, he's annoying. But what's worse is he looks like he's suffering from a toothache and on steroids. What is it with the cape? Why not join Marvel DC superheroes? And why is he so infatuated with Morrigan? What is it with Dracula and Dracula-based characters being portrayed as a stalker? Is this a trend? Come on, seriously. Ah yes, Dmitry Maximov, the supposed alpha vampire of the Darkstalker series. Capcom really looked at Dracula, then said, what if he was jacked, constipated, and addicted to flexing his cape? This guy is what happens when anime artists try to mix Bram Stoker, WWE, and Twilight, and then forget to give him a personality. Dimitri's entire character can be summed up as, I'm dark, I'm sexy, I want to rule the night, blah blah blah. If Dracula is the king of the night, Dimitri is the dude trying to sell you bootleg vampire cologne in a parking lot. Okay, last category, the best versions. The one that I rank are the best ones yet. Number 1, Dracula Untold. Dracula Untold does something rare. It gives the name Dracula a soul, a past, and a reason to become the terrifying legend we all know. This isn't just a vampire flick, it's a tragic origin story wrapped in war, sacrifice, and bat-fueled epicness. Okay, this one is literally, in my opinion, the best version of Dracula. It is a spin on the real Dracula, Vlad the Impaler. It's not a Dracula portrayed as a stalker, it's not just some love story. It also explains how he became a vampire in the first place. Imagine the myths of him and the story of his personal life merging into one story. The story of Vlad the Impaler. Where he lived, when he lived, what hardships he had to face. Luke Evans delivers a surprisingly humanized portrayal of Vlad III, the historical figure behind the Dracula myth. This version of Dracula isn't lurking in shadows for fun, he's fighting to save his people and his family. Faced with an impossible choice, let his son be taken by the Ottoman Empire or become something inhuman to fight back, Vlad chooses darkness. For the sake of light. It's Shakespearean, emotional, and refreshingly morally complex. He doesn't want to become a vampire. He does it because he has to, and that alone sets the story apart. Still dabbles in folklore and historical aspects, and has a Bram Stoker twist at the ending. Luke Evans played the role quite well in comparison to other versions I've seen, and the graphics of the film are cool. Especially the scene with the swarm of bats on the battlefield. I would highly recommend this movie, just a shame that they haven't made a sequel yet. It's one of the best reimaginings out there. It blends historical fiction, gothic horror, and superhero-style storytelling into something bold and new. And Luke Evans? Underrated. He plays Vlad with a sense of nobility and pain that many other Draculas just don't have. Number 2. Dracula with Jonathan Rhys-Meyer. This is a series with Dracula. Jonathan Rhys-Meyer from Tudors, Bend It Like Beckham. Yeah, good actor. He may not look like the role, but his dramatic personality made up for it. The reason why I ranked it second best was it's nearly as good as the first one, except this one is more a speculative, more Bram Stoker design version. I like this one because it mentions Vlad the Impaler's wife. One of them that actually existed. Ilona. Not any other version I've watched told the story that way. This isn't just romance for the sake of swooning. It's tragic, tense, and deeply tied to his humanity. It adds stakes and makes you feel for Dracula. He's not chasing blood, he's chasing redemption. And that's rare for a character known mostly for, well, biting people and brooding. Dracula I've by van Helsing. Vlad travels around the world under the name Alexander Grayson. He works with electricity. He makes a friend called Renfield. They are all chased by the Order of the Dragon, but they are vampire hunters. Alexander goes to England to further his research when he meets Mina Murray at some convention. She is the reincarnation of Ilona. When she gets engaged to Jonathan Harker, things turn upside down. Yes, it is romance, yuck. This series blends historical intrigue, secret societies, science versus superstition, and yes, the real Vlad the Impaler backstory into one cohesive narrative. Unlike some adaptations that throw historical accuracy out the window, this one actually references the Order of the Dragon, real-world politics, and Eastern European folklore. It's Bram Stoker meets steampunk noir, and that creative blend gives it so much potential. Much like Dracula Untold. But the graphics of Dracula Untold are awesome, and Luke Evans played the role quite well. Sad thing is, this series was cancelled. There is only one season, major letdown. It was cancelled so that the stupid series Hannibal Lecter could continue. But this Dracula version was worthwhile watching, in my opinion, and should have been continued. Number 3. Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman. So the classic movie with Anthony Hopkins, Keanu Reeves, and Winona Ryder. The most over-romanticized version yet but still decent. This isn't your jump scare, horror for the sake of it Dracula. It dives deep into faith, morality, immortality, and the weight of love that never dies. There's a literary richness here that few Dracula films even attempt, let alone master. It still has aspects of Vlad the Impaler's story, but only little. The film was okay and the actors well chosen. A classic for its time. Basically, Dracula lures a man called Jonathan Harker to Wallachia so that he can buy houses land in England. But it's a trap. Dracula actually wants his wife, who is the reincarnation of his own wife. The woman's name is Mina, and she lives in England. He traps Jonathan in his castle and sails off on a ship to England. Jonathan fights his way out of the castle, makes his way to England. We all know the rest of the movie. Gary Oldman commits to every moment. Whether he's turning into rats, whispering in the shadows, or gliding across the floor with Mina, he carries the film with theatrical elegance and pure cinematic presence. Number 4. Seeing Beings as Believing Chronicles, or Series 2 Book 1. Now, this is a book series you have probably never heard of. It's also books I'm incredibly fond of. But if you had watched my book review video, you would know what this book is. It's about characters like Cleopatra and her Cat People dynasty. And the one I'm especially fond of, the Series 2 Book 1, has a story on Vlad the Impaler. Unlike many adaptations that gloss over the real Vlad III, Seeing Beings as Believing dives straight into his origins, his birth, his battles, and the dark forces that surrounded his life long before he became the inspiration for a legend. He isn't portrayed as a one-dimensional villain. He's a survivor of war, betrayal, and grief. And what makes this book stand out is that it's not just Vlad the Impaler's story, but of those around him. If you've read countless Dracula stories and thought, surely someone's done everything there is to do with this guy, this book says otherwise. The story goes into immense detail when the person was born and all the wars and cruelty he had to face. How he was born a vampire hybrid, and the Dracula portion of Chronicles book, or Series 2 Book 1, is more than a character study. It's a window into an entire living mythology. From the courts of Wallachia to moonlit forests crawling with ancient beings, this story weaves folklore into history so well, you almost forget it's fiction. And the fact that Dracula exists alongside Cleopatra's feline dynasty, witches, and other supernatural beings makes this universe feel alive and interconnected, like a dark fairy tale unfolding in real time. I was so fond of it I decided to add it to my list. But here's the interesting bit. Only the first part of the story may have been released so far. That's what I got to read, based on the to be continued at the end of the story. I'm presuming there's another part that may be released someday. I would recommend this book. But if you're only interested in the Dracula story, reading the separate chronicle would be what I suggest. Number 5. Let's not forget the classic black and white Nosferatu film, the oldest vampire film to ever have been made. I'm not too fond of it, but because of its age and because it was ahead of its time, I am quite sentimental about it. We all know the plot line of this one, so I'm not going to delve into that. There are films that entertain, and then there are films that make history. Nosferatu is the latter, a haunting, poetic, and absolutely groundbreaking masterpiece that paved the way for modern horror as we know it. Even over a century later, F.W. Murnau's silent adaptation of Dracula still casts a long, eerie shadow, both literally and figuratively. Released in 1922, Nosferatu was the first horror film ever made, and despite being an unauthorized adaptation of Dracula, it became something entirely original. It wasn't about jump scares or loud music cues. It was about dread, isolation, and the fear of the unknown. It's a slow, creeping horror that feels more dreamlike than dramatic, a tone modern films still struggle to achieve. So that was my video. What did you all think? What is your favorite or least liked Dracula version? Leave your answers in the comments.